Krypton. Your world is mine.
What's the hubbub? Today's headline: the wallet's closed movement against James Gunn's DCU has flopped. Brainiac is cast. It's official with Brainiac cast. It's confirming Man of Tomorrow is proceeding as planned. The attempted wallet's closed agenda has officially flopped hard. Not only was Superman the #1 superhero movie of 2025, beating all 3 Marvel releases, it was also the biggest Superman domestically of all time. The wallet's closed American-based attempt from harsh critics really failed miserably, and it's hilarious. Also, we're seeing continued DCU growth. What's that mean? With projects this far along, it makes at least 4 years without another verse reboot of any kind to stand in the way of James Gunn. That also means the dead SnyderVerse will never be a replacement option. The best you Snyder cult bros can hope for is Gunn having a story idea such as an Infinite Crisis adaptation to include Zack Snyder under his vision. Your movement never took off. It is over and you're cooked. Let's talk about the casting of Brainiac. This is the first time that Brainiac, a very popular Superman villain in the comics next to Lex, will appear on the big screen. The character was created by writer Otto Binder and artist Al Plastino and made his debut in Action Comics. Even though he hovers near the top of Superman's rogues gallery, Man of Tomorrow marks the first time Brainiac will be depicted in live action on the big screen, so that's something Zack Snyder was never able to do, and the SnyderVerse can never claim. Gunn is doing it! Brainiac is hell-bent on collecting all the knowledge in the universe. What we know about Man of Tomorrow is that David Corenswet's Man of Steel and Nicholas Hoult's Luthor have to team up against a new threat in the galaxy. Wouldn't be a surprise if it's Brainiac who can shrink cities and destroy planets. In the comics, the bad guy has a history of shrinking Superman's home planet of Krypton, and in some storylines even destructed the place. Gunn wrote on Instagram, "In our worldwide search for Brainiac in Man of Tomorrow, Lars Eidinger rose to the top. Welcome to the DCU, Lars." An April production start is being eyed for Man of Tomorrow for a theatrical release on July 9th, 2027. Superman was Gunn's first big tentpole in the new DC studios, led by himself and Peter Safran. This is all incredibly exciting for DC and Superman fans. James Gunn is betting on stage talent over known names once again to take a risk. Remember, for Guardians of the Galaxy, he faced a lot of studio pushback on the cast. I mean, Chris Pratt was a gamble at the time to be your lead. Now, he cannot even imagine the great trilogy without him and the other cast members. Can Gunn pull this recipe of success off again, but within Superman's world? I'm optimistic he will, but the proof will be in the pudding. If it's Jell-O, though, beware of Cosby edibles. They may cause drowsiness, especially if female. Yikes. There is always a pretty negative way of reporting anything remotely related to James Gunn these days. Let's see, though, if he can pull this off. No matter what you think the box office pressure may be, in the end, he will at minimum pull off a full Superman saga. In the case of Supergirl, he's thinking of that as a bridge movie to help connect Man of Tomorrow. You just don't greenlight a near B-level hero in terms of popularity from Supergirl, expecting gigantic box office. It's a build into Man of Tomorrow where he hopes it can pay off. To me, they aren't even aiming for 700 million plus until the Man of Tomorrow movie. I also believe he's going to get his version of Batman moving along soon as well. I have caught wind of a rumor, which was reported previously from a Dark Horizons scooper, that Gunn is looking towards a 2029 Batman project release. He'd also like to get Wonder Woman off the ground, which is having a lot of movement behind the scenes, he just has to do this on his strategic terms regarding the release of information. When it came to Brainiac news, for example, he knew Dave Bautista was never being cast for it. And right around the corner had an announcement in waiting for Lars there. Is a timing to the news cycles for the DCU. He wants to control this for good reason, as clickbait sites have an agenda to use whatever they can against him. Look at the context of what he really said about Batman, for example. The lead story from anti-gun sites was that he called Batman boring. The SnyderVerse fans, of course, are going to believe however the headline reads. The truth couldn't have been further from that, however. The Snyder Bros will not want you to see the following. Here is the full context from James Gunn during a Rolling Stones interview. Batman has to have a reason for existing, right? So Batman can't just be, oh, we're making a Batman movie because Batman's the biggest character in all of Warner Brothers, which he is, but because there's a need for him in the DCU and a need that he's not exactly the same as Matt's Batman, but yet he's not a campy Batman. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a funny, campy Batman, really. So we're dealing with that. I think I have a way in, by the way. I think I really know what it's. I just am dealing with the writer to make sure that we can make it a reality. Every single Batman story has been told. It seems like half the comics that have come out of DC over the past 30 years have Batman in them. He's the most famous superhero in the world and the most popular superhero in the world. And people love him because he's interesting, but also having so much of him out there can also make him boring. So how do you create that property that's fun to watch? So the truth is, Snyder riders, you silly groupies, Gunn simply has seen Batman grounded in the same way for quite a while now. It can get stale, and he's wanting to open up the stories for him, so his take and portrayal isn't as formulaic. Stop falling for every hit piece on the DCU. Harsh critics took another L. He just can't debate. Gunn is winning. I'm not saying it will be perfect, but the basis of a lot of negativity has been missing context and truth. So what do you all think? Please subscribe and comment below on today's hubbub. It's free and simply keeps you up to date on news and the entertaining ongoing DCU versus DCEU fandom debate. No SnyderVerse, no problem. Wallets are still open, and reality is they weren't ever closed. Wallet's closed agenda flopped harshly. Ha ha! Look up, not back. Take care of yourselves and others. Get on board the DCU train, the only active DC movieverse, or accept being a loser that gets left behind clinging to a dead verse. Don't be a loser. I implore you. See you on the next hubbub.